If you've ever come out of a toxic relationship, you know that feeling. You just feel different. Maybe you're more anxious, quicker to react, or you just feel disconnected from the person you remember being. Today, we're diving into the neuroscience behind that feeling. We're going to get into the science of what's happening and, most importantly, explore the path back to yourself. It's a question so many of us have asked ourselves, right? You look in the mirror and you just wonder, where did the old me go? The exhaustion, the constant feeling of being on edge, it can be incredibly isolating. But the first thing I want you to really hear is this: you are not alone in feeling this way. And this is probably the most important thing to grasp right from the start. What you're feeling is not a sign of weakness. It's not a personal failing. It is a real, measurable, physiological injury. We're talking about actual changes to your brain structure and its function, all caused by prolonged psychological abuse. So to really understand how to heal, we first have to look at the injury itself. And this isn't about blame, it's about biology. So let's start by unpacking the huge impact these experiences have on our brains. Think about it like this. Your brain's number one job is to keep you alive. So when it's under constant threat, it shifts into full-on survival mode. It basically hijacks your body's stress response system, flooding you with hormones to get you ready to fight, flee, or freeze. This isn't a glitch in the system. It's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do to protect you. So what does this survival mode actually look like? Let's zoom in and take a look under the hood at what's happening inside your brain. We're going to focus on 3 key players that are really impacted by trauma. First up is the amygdala. The easiest way to think of it is as your brain's smoke detector. It's your emotional alarm system. Now, during trauma, it's on high alert, as it should be. The problem is, with long-term trauma, that smoke detector gets stuck in the on position. It becomes so sensitive that it's not just going off for a fire anymore, it's screaming bloody murder over a slightly burnt piece of toast. And that is why you might feel constantly on edge, jumpy, or see threats everywhere, even when you know you're safe. So while that smoke detector is blaring danger, the brain's calm, rational fire chief, that's your prefrontal cortex, gets totally pushed aside. This is your center for logic, for planning, for good decision-making. It's the part that would normally step in and say, hey, calm down, it's just toast. But in survival mode, its rational voice gets completely drowned out by the alarm. This imbalance is why it can feel absolutely impossible to think clearly or make decisions when you're feeling triggered. And then there's this powerful psychological hook that makes these relationships so incredibly hard to leave. It's called intermittent reinforcement. It's this completely unpredictable cycle of abuse followed by these tiny crumbs of kindness. It creates this powerful, almost addictive bond, conditioning you to tolerate long stretches of pain just in the hopes of getting that random, unpredictable reward. It's a cruel but really effective form of control. So this brings us to a really crucial point, a reframe of how you see these changes. It is so easy to feel like something inside you is broken or flawed. But what if we saw it differently? What if these changes aren't signs of damage, but are actually clever adaptations? A heightened sense of alert wasn't a flaw. It was a feature that helped you survive. You are not broken. Your brain adapted. And you know what? That very ability to adapt is the key to getting better. If your brain can wire itself for survival, it can absolutely rewire itself for healing. This brings us to the blueprint for how we can actually make that change happen. This is all possible because of a truly remarkable process called neuroplasticity. You know, for a long time, we thought our brains were basically set in stone after we grew up. We now know that's just not true. Your brain is constantly changing, forming new connections. And just as trauma can create those negative pathways, you can intentionally create new, healthy ones. And this just says it all, doesn't it? The trauma may have altered your brain's course, for sure, but it does not get to define your final destination. You have the power to change its direction. So how do we do it? We can think about healing as a 2-pronged approach. There's top-down healing, which is all about changing our thoughts and processing memories. And then there's bottom-up healing, which focuses on calming our body and our nervous system first to create a foundation of safety that makes all the other work possible. So top-down approaches include therapies like CBT, which helps you identify and challenge all those negative thought patterns that got installed by the abuse. There's also EMDR, which uses bilateral stimulation to help the brain process traumatic memories and dial down that hyperreactive amygdala. And Schema Therapy gets at those really deep-seated negative core beliefs about yourself. Essentially, these are all ways to work with your conscious mind to rewrite the stories that trauma created. Bottom-up tools, on the other hand, are all about healing the body. Polyvagal exercises can help shift your nervous system out of that defensive state and into a state of safety. Trauma-informed mindfulness and grounding techniques help you gently reconnect with your body's sensations, anchoring you right here in the present moment. These techniques help you teach your body on a physical level that it is finally safe. Healing the brain is one thing, but we also need practical tools for navigating the world differently. And honestly, one of the most critical skills to learn is how to build boundaries. If you've ever felt that just overwhelming wave of guilt or fear at the thought of saying no to someone, you know exactly what this means. It can feel like the hardest, most unnatural thing in the world. And guess what? There's a really good reason for that. Setting boundaries is so difficult because the abuse literally conditioned you against it. You learned that people-pleasing kept the peace. You were taught to suppress your own needs to avoid conflict. You were ingrained with guilt, which made you feel responsible for their feelings. These are not personal weaknesses, they are learned survival skills that just don't serve you anymore. Building them back is a 3-step process. First, you have to get quiet and actually figure out what your needs and wants are. Then you practice. You start small, in low-stakes situations, and you build your confidence. And finally, the most important part, you stick to the promises you make to yourself. It's less about getting others to respect your boundaries and more about you respecting yourself enough to hold them. And as you build that safety with boundaries, you create space to do the final, most important work, reconnecting with the person you truly are. A major obstacle on this path is the inner critic. This is that relentless internal voice that just echoes all the negative messages from your past. You're not good enough. You're broken. It was all your fault. That voice is not you. It is an internalization of the abuse you survived. And this inner critic deals in the currency of shame. It's so crucial to understand the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is about a behavior. I did something wrong. But shame attacks your very identity. I am fundamentally flawed. Chronic shame, fueled by that inner critic, makes healing feel impossible because it convinces you that you're undeserving of care. The antidote to shame is self-compassion, and this is an active daily practice. It means challenging that inner critic with actual evidence of your worth. It means reconnecting with hobbies that bring you joy. It's celebrating the small acts of self-care, like eating when you're hungry or resting when you're tired. It's building connections with people who see and value the real you. Your brain is a powerful student, and it learned exactly what it needed to in order to get you through an unbearable situation. It adapted for survival. But now, with the power of neuroplasticity and the courage to heal, you get to be the teacher. You get to write the next chapter. The question is, what new story will you teach it?